Hello, fellow Crusaders, and welcome to our latest Decades of Animation. My name is Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. We are through the 80s and 90s. Now we are in the 2000s. And before you say that, the 80s and 90s are in one episode, so don't go looking for Decades of 80s. You ain't going to find it. But today, we are talking about the 2000s. We touched a little bit on it in the last episode about how kind of like with action and horror, 80s was good and memorable. 90s kind of perfected it, and then 2000s kind of tried to continue to do what the 90s did, and it didn't really work. Do you feel like with animation that they kind of did the same thing, or did they break the mold and actually continue to try to develop and come up with new stuff?
I think it was a little of both, because for me, I felt like the 2000s, a lot of it was kind of spinning their wheels and doing kind of a lot of more of the same, but not nearly as good. I thought the 2000s was a big dip down from the 90s, because that especially with Disney, like their prime golden years of the 90s, I think the 2000s are maybe one of their weaker decades. But at the same time, though, you had, Pixar, it became the prime of Pixar hitting their stride. You had like DreamWorks and some of these other ones becoming big animation powerhouses. By the end of the decade, you're really basically seeing the end of traditional 2D animation for a lot of studios, especially most notably Disney puts out their last 2D animated one, and then until they switched completely to computer generated, which like by this point DreamWorks is already pretty much doing. So it's kind of a mixed bag. It's a lot of end of things, beginning of things, the good, the bad. It's a real mixed bag. I will say this is a weird decade for me personally, because in the 2000s, in the late 2000s, I had two kids. So I saw more animated films probably than I've ever watched before, but I think I enjoyed fewer of them. or at least I didn't.
You were more forced to watch it because.
Let's just say there was still some that I loved, but I think not nearly as many as like the 90s or as we get into later decades. But I just saw a whole lot more stuff that I was either just kind of mid on or just thought was complete crap. But the things you do for your kids, right?
Yeah, I'll even admit there's some now that I'm watching. I'm like, I don't want to watch this, but okay. I would say, yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree, because while I look at this list that I've created, there's at least three of my top 10 of my top 5 are some of my all-time favorites. And then I look at like my 4 and 5. I'm like, I love these, but I'm not like over the moon in love with them. I'm just like, yeah, those are probably the two best after my top 3, which are my fucking top 3. And even my surprises I think are more actually in line with your surprises, where it's like they're ones that are maybe not as big, except for like maybe one of them, and they're like ones that are like, I did not expect to enjoy that, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. And my overrateds are once again probably gonna piss people off, but not
my overrated list. I almost was like, are we sure you can't do a top 10 for that this decade? Because I had a whole lot of overrated.
Because I will say this, because you don't embellish over the line as much as I do, I will gladly give you a top 10 of overrated for 2000. Sometimes you got to be the bad guy too. So I will gladly give you
know what? 10. Maybe, if anything, maybe I'll mention a couple honorable mentions, but just by name and not go into in detail. And then I will admit I have a couple that really encompass more than one film. So
I'm totally fine with you doing that. But yeah, I'm kind of like I said in the same ballpark. It's like I feel like the 2000s in almost all the genres except for comedy. Because comedy, I feel like 2000s really was actually
was kind of a prime for comedy.
Yeah, comedy was probably the one thing in 2000s that like legitimately. I'll scratch that. Comedy and fantasy, because then you had the Harry Potter's, Lord of the Rings. 2000s was the wheelhouse. It was those, and then it was the birth of the comic book movies, but it really didn't hit its steam till the end of the 2000s. But I feel like action, horror, and animation, while they have some iconic films in there, a lot of it is, let's just do what the 90s did, but we're using computer animation. It's no different with action, where it's like, well, now we're going to use CGI instead of practical. And it's like, sometimes it's going to work, but then other times it's like,
but a lot of these companies just weren't ready for it, because it wasn't quite at the right level yet. Yeah.
No, a lot of it was just like, hey, this is cheaper, let's do this. Or, hey, everyone else is doing it, let's just do it, and it will be just as successful. And it's like, that's not how that works. But like you said, there was people like DreamWorks who kind of, I feel like DreamWorks was kind of like, let's wait and see what everyone else is doing. And while we're waiting to see it, let's actually make sure we're developing some good stories. And then, I mean, because you had your Shreks, your How to Train Your Dragons, and stuff like that. I mean, and honestly, the 2000s for the most part was run by Pixar. And I mean, Disney at that point, weren't they separated? Wasn't Pixar its own thing by the 2000s?
Well, Pixar started out as its own thing, and then they used Disney as a distributor. But then by the time we hit the 2000s, Disney just flat out bought Pixar, and they were under them now.
Oh, I thought Pixar was on their own for a little while, and then in the 2010s, Disney got Pixar back. I thought they were separate.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, my bad. Well, that's why I asked Brian these things, because I'm not 100% on it, especially when it comes to animation. But like I said, I worked in the movie theater in the early 2000s, so unless it was something I actively was like, I don't fucking want to watch this, then I didn't watch it. And sometimes it was the occasional animated film, but usually there'd be times, kind of like how Brian is now, where it's like, I'm bored. I basically get free tickets. I'll just go see this movie after work or before work starts. And a lot of that times would be those random animation films that I like really didn't think was going to be anything special. And then I was like, oh, okay, I actually enjoyed it. But yeah, the 2000s, I think, once again, falls right into the same pathway as the last 2 decades of So We Watch, where it's just not lazy, but just the imagination and opportunities kind of fell by the wayside with, let's just do what everyone else is doing and we'll make money. And it wasn't until near the end of the 2000s and 2010s, not named Pixar, and occasionally DreamWorks, where it was like, okay, this is not working. We need to change it up. And that's when we go into the 2010s, there's so many more like, oh my God, this is the hardest fucking list I've had to make in a long time. But let's go ahead and jump into this list. Since you've got quite a few that you want to tackle, and I'm sure there's going to be 1 or 2 in here that you're probably going to say that's one of my favorite ones. Kind of like when you attacked Goofy Movie last week. But then again, I attacked like 3 of yours last week. So why don't you go ahead and go into your overrated rant?
Okay. Just real quick note, first of all, Pixar was its own thing. It collaborated with Disney through 2006. In 2006, when Disney just bought them. So they've been with them since then.
Gotcha.
Okay. So overrated, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of extras. I'm just going to give you basically 2 honorable mentions. 1, Lilo and Stitch. It's okay. It's not great. 2,
I don't disagree with that. 2, it's not on my overrated, but it should be, but it's not.
2 is honorable mention because I hear some people that really like, especially one of these movies, but I hear a lot of people that hate them as well. So I can't really call them overrated. And that's Robert Zemeckis' new obsession with mocap animation, with the Polar Express and Christmas Carol and Beowulf. Okay. And he went on this whole streak where he stopped making real movies to make this kind of shit with the dead eyes and not very good animation. Like I said, a lot of people will criticize those, but there's this weird love for Polar Express, which I don't get, because even as a story, it's not very good because it's like a 20-page book dragged out to an hour-and-a-half movie.
I don't either. I'm right there with you. I've never really... Beowulf was probably the closest one where I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. And then I was bored. And how can you be bored of, like, Angelina Jolie in that movie? Like, seriously. But yeah, I'm with you. I've never really cared for the Polar Express or Christmas Carol or any of those kinds of films.
Yeah, so those are just my extras. I'll give my number 5 on overrated. Again, not really ranked, but okay, my first overrated. I'm gonna go with The Emperor's New Groove. Like I said, the 2000s for me, is just Disney's dead zone. I think they kind of found themselves going into the 2010s. I think the fact they were being overshadowed by Pixar really affected them. But most of the 2000s, from what was like Dinosaur and Home on the Range and Brother Bear and I don't even know what else came out just off the top of my head, but they had all these kind of ones that were average to bad. And then Emperor's New Groove is one that's, again, it's okay, it's fine, but people, especially in the kind of this movie community that we're in, just praise this movie to high hell. And I'm like, I don't get it. And maybe it's because a lot of these people are younger than me, obviously. So they grew up and this was kind of maybe their prime Disney movie watching days. And so this became a classic to them. But I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's all that funny. It's, like I said, it's not bad, but it's just overpraised, especially amongst a lot of people I talk to.
I'll be talking about this later. So this is basically a Goofy Movie again. I even said it in the last episode. I go, I know Brian's probably going to shit on one that I loved in the 2000s, and I'll defend it then too. And this was that one. So yeah, I'll talk about it later.
All right, what's your first?
So that was, okay, my first one, I remember, excuse me. I remember when this first came out. I think everyone that are fans of these movies lost their collective minds. And while there is some good bits in it, I think it's wildly overrated, and that's the Animatrix. I think it is a solid like Matrix World shorts, but I think there's only like 2 shorts in it that are actually like good and decent, and then the rest are just kind of boring to me. And everyone's just treats the Animatrix like it's this like upper echelon holy grail love, that it's like right up there with the first Matrix movie as like this amazing thing, and it's like, no, it's not. Like, can we please stop treating it's problem is that we had 2 disappointing sequels, and then the Animatrix came out, and Animatrix was better in terms of just enjoyment than those 2. So everyone puts it right up there. It's like it's really not as good as you guys remember. Like, I went back and like watched it just so I would know, did I really not think this is that great, or is that a point not thinking it's great? It's like, is this really as good as, and it's not. It's really not. And I've never, yeah.
Yeah, Animatrix, I admit I've not watched this in forever, so I don't remember real well. I do remember them being entertaining, but like any anthology, there's like, some segments are better than others. Some are good, some are bad, a lot of in between. I didn't really consider it for this list. Not that I'm saying it's not eligible, just my mind didn't even think about it. Maybe because it's a collection of short films. I'm not quite sure why my mind went there. Yeah, it's like I said, I haven't even watched it in decades, so clearly didn't make a mark with me. It's fine.
What's your next one?
My next one, well, here's where we start pissing people off. Okay, I'll say right, it's Up. Everyone in the world will agree the first 10 minutes is awesome. It's spectacular. It's like a great story told just in 10 minutes. It's a great short film. Then
if they played that, granted it's a little long for one of their shorts, but if they played that in front of any other movie, Oscar-winning for short film of the year, short film
absolutely.
animation.
Now it would end on a very downer note, but it still would be
but still a beautiful.
It would still be a beautiful award-winning, short, because it's a great short film. The problem is after that point, where it turns into a not very entertaining movie, with a stupid dog that just can talk. Apparently, yells squirrel all the time. You got an annoying kid. You got kind of a dumb story, a not memorable plot or villain. Just everything about the movie is just so average at best. I actually find it very unenjoyable. I've never watched the whole movie again. I think I've watched that first segment 1 or 2 times since I first saw it, but that's it. But yet there are people that just praise this movie as being great. And was this one of the ones nominated for Best Picture?
I think it might have been.
It might have been. I'll check into that in a minute. But it definitely didn't deserve it, because yes, reward that opening bit as a short, but the rest of it's not worth the attention.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on that. I think it has got probably the best 10-minute opening of any Pixar film, or right up there with the top like 2 or 3. And after that, yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, I think I'm cool with it until the journey, until he actually inflates all the balloons. Like, I was like, okay, this little story between this little like Boy Scout, wanting to like hang out with the old dude, and the old dude just really not fucking having it. I was like, okay, that could be charming and adorable. But yeah, once they like start traveling and they get into where the hell they were going to go see that explorer dude, and then it just becomes like a totally different kind of movie. I barely remember it because it's not memorable at that point. I think it's a solid 1-act film, and then the last 2 acts just are kind of average at best. Now, I'm pretty sure I gave this a really high score when it came out, but if I like went back and rewatched it, it probably would lose a star, if not a star and a half, because it is so predicated on those first 10 minutes that most of the scores, if you take that 10 minutes out, I guarantee you the scores for this movie plummet. I mean, it could still be people's favorites, but is it a favorite because that first 10 minutes is so fucking good? Or is it because you actually like the rest of the story? And I guarantee you most of it's because of that first 10 minutes. look, this is probably the epitome of like the Inglourious Bastards opening. But the thing is, the Inglourious Bastards continued to be amazing after that opening scene. Up did not. And I should have put it in my overrated, but I didn't. Because I think I was like, it's gonna be weird to give it an overrated for a score. I think I gave like 4.5 stars. But yeah.
And just to
At the
confirm, it
time-
was nominated for Best Picture, and it won Best Animated Feature. So
Oh, it definitely won. In 2000, Pixar pretty much won every fucking year.
yeah.
And I do think animation wise, it does look amazing. There's definitely most of the time with Pixar, you're never going to be upset with the animation style. So while
You know what? I don't knock the animation, but I hate the character design. I hate the look of every one of the characters, honestly. But the actual animation of it is actually very well done.
I do think once the balloons start showing up, I think the balloon visuals look phenomenal. Yeah. So visually wise, it's story and character that just fell apart for me. My next one, I don't know necessarily people think this is overrated, but it spawned so many fucking sequels that apparently people had to have loved it. But I just have never really gotten it, and that's Ice Age. I have never been a fan of Ice Age. I think every time I've watched it, I've just been like, okay. I mean, John Leguizamo's funny. Ray Romano, I've never been a huge Ray Romano fan, so having to have him be for the most part, the lead and listening to his voice doesn't really appeal much to me. I really enjoy Dennis Leary, but Dennis Leary's not being Dennis Leary in these movies because it's a kid's movie and he can't be the Dennis Leary that I love. So I literally have just, outside of John Leguizamo's and the fucking squirrel, which is enjoyable, but those are shorts basically every time he comes into play. Scratch or Scrap, can't remember what the hell its name is. I just have never really. What's that?
Scrat with a T.
Scrat. I've just never been a huge Ice Age fan, let alone it needing fucking 5, 6, different movies.
There's 5 so far. There's a 6th one coming out next year, or it might get bumped the following year. Yeah.
It doesn't need that. And there's another movie that I'm going to be talking about here when I get to my number 1. That's the same fucking thing where I never loved it, never really liked it, and it spawned so many goddamn sequels that were unnecessary and unneeded. But apparently someone liked them. But yeah, I've never been an Ice Age fan.
Yeah, actually, I forgot it. There is actually 6 already so far if you count the spin-off, that Disney Plus one with Buck. Yeah, this is a franchise. Like the first one is fine. It's kids enjoyed it. It's obviously not something that adults could enjoy the way they do some other Disney and Pixar ones, but it's fine. It's enjoyable. Like you said, I don't really like Ray Romano. I don't really like his voice, but it kind of fits the mammoth. Dennis Leary, I love, but again, when you're neutering him, put him in a kids movie, how much fun is it going to be? So I was like, fine. They made this movie, and then they made a second one. You're like, okay, that's weird. And then they just kept making them, and I don't know why. And at this point, I was just looking up. It's a franchise that's made like $3.3 billion worldwide altogether. Now, granted, most of that, like $2.5 billion of that, is from foreign. So I don't know why foreign countries love this movie so much, because it hasn't done nearly as well in the U.S. But it is a series that I am baffled that it still exists. When they announced they're making another one, I'm like, really? I mean, even the last couple weren't even big hits to the box office. So I don't know why they're doing what they do, but whatever. And it's been like 9 years since the last one, not counting that Disney Plus one.
I think after the third one, I was like, okay, I am not watching this. And then and like that same thing with like, I think Ice Age broke my animation back, where it's like, look, man, if I just don't care, I'm not gonna fucking watch it. Because like same thing with like the Hotel Transylvanias, I've never watched a single fucking one of those because it just looked like another cheap Adam Sandler. And now that thing is like, let's make all the sequels, and it's, oh my god, it's so funny. It's like, it doesn't look funny. It doesn't. And Ice Age is like right there with it.
Yeah, because only maybe the first 2 came out before I had kids. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't need to watch it. And of course I watched the rest of them because I had kids, but not for my own, desire to watch them.
You were held at gunpoint. Yeah. All right, what's your next one?
My next one. Oh, which people should I piss off next? You know what? I'll stay on the Pixar train for now. The other one, and a lot of people consider this their favorite of all the Pixar movies, and I don't think it's that enjoyable, and that's Ratatouille. Ratatouille is another movie. Again, just to point out, this is our overrated. This is not worst, because this is not a bad movie. It is an okay movie. It is an average mid-range Pixar movie for me. It's not one of their worst. It's not one of their best, but it's one of these movies that I think is just completely overpraised. I don't find it that funny. I don't find it that enjoyable. I don't find it that unique. I don't find it very creative. I think it's fine. But and I would be fine to just write it off as fine. But so many people praise this and put it at the top of their Pixar lists, whereas for me, it's at best halfway up the list.
I remember when it first came out, I had no real feelings towards it. I really didn't care much about it. I think I watched it once all the, not novelty, but all the popularity of it kind of died the fuck down. I actually did enjoy it. If I did a top 10, it would be in my top 10. It's not in my top 5. But I did enjoy Ratatouille. I don't think it's, one of the, I think in terms of my Pixar rankings, which I'd have to look it up real quick, I think it's in the teens. I'd have to look it up.
Which is probably where it belongs.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I think the character work, I mean, and a lot of it is just kind of like the animation. I think Remy the Rat.
Yeah.
I think Remy the Rat looks good. I think it was more the humans didn't look all that appealing to me. And of course,
Letterboxd. It wasn't even the look of it. I thought actually the humans looked better than they had previously, except for, of course, Incredibles. But yeah,
Incredibles just looked incredible.
Just the story and the characters and the jokes just didn't land for me.
Yeah, of course, Letterboxd is taking forever to load, and I'm trying to pull up my Pixar list right now. But yeah, I mean, here you go, Pixar rankings. Ratatouille is 14 for me. And Up was, where the fuck's Up? 16 for me. So mid-range. But yeah, I liked it. I don't love it, like I said, as much as everybody else, but I still think Ratatouille's solid. But I definitely was not a late bloomer to it, but I definitely was not in the Ratatouille craze when it first came out. For coming to my next one, once again, I don't know if this is considered overrated or not, but I also, after I left the movie theater for the next job after that, I worked at Best Buy. And I sold home theater equipment for a very long time, TV, surround sounds, all that stuff. And I had to listen to one particular surround sound scene 40 times a day. And it's the most annoying goddamn scene. And I had grown to hate this movie before I ever actually saw the movie, because I had to see the same fucking scene over and over and fucking over again. And then I watched the movie because I know a lot of people do enjoy this film, and I was still just like, meh. And that's Chicken Little.
Oh.
Oh my God. The fucking baseball scene. This is from someone who fucking loves baseball. I saw that fucking baseball scene probably 10,000 times working at Best Buy because they never changed the fucking.
I feel your pain having worked in a video store, you watch reels of the same thing over and over again.
Oh my God. I mean, working there almost made me hate Twister because I kept watching the same Twister scene over and over and over and over again. And Gladiator too. It was like these 6 movies. It was the same scenes over and over and over again. Batman Begins. That was another one that had.
Means Gladiator also, by the way, not Gladiator 2.
No, not Gladiator 2. Gladiator, which was the iconic tiger scene, like tiger fight. That was the demo that I got. But Chicken Little, I just never saw the appeal. I'm not a huge Zach Braff fan, so making him the lead, it is Zach Braff, right? Isn't he Chicken Little?
I believe so.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. I think I finally made myself watch it sometime within the last 5 years, and I think it might have been for trivia or something around there, because I was like, you know what, I actually never did watch this. I should check it out. And I watched. I'm just like, okay, it's not the worst fucking thing in the world, but it's also not great either. So chalk this up to me being oversaturated by it when I worked at Best Buy. But yeah, Chicken Little to me is just overrated. Would you consider this overrated, or would you consider kind of like?
It's hard to say for me because I don't really pay attention, because I have not heard people talk a ton about Chicken Little. Looking at it though, it has an average ratings on it, but there are definitely some people who love it. But I mean, it's your own personal experience. For people you've encountered and just having to see it that much, I completely understand why you put it there. I myself don't even remember this movie, although I know I saw it at the time. I think it was one of Disney proper, not Pixar, but Disney's first computer animated films. It was one of their first ones. And I do feel like this one was also trying to skew towards a younger audience. It wasn't trying to go for like the, one of the like movies that appeals to adults and kids. It felt like this one was just aimed squarely at kids, which maybe that's part of the reason we don't enjoy it as much. But either way, it's just memorable. Okay, here we go. The last two on my list. This one I'm going to use to encompass a whole franchise, but I'll say this the first one, and that's Shrek. Shrek is enjoyable. It is funny. It is not worth the praise people give it as one of the best animated films of all time, or this franchise that needs to go on for however many movies and spin-offs and things they've done. It is entertaining. It has funny jokes in it. Well, the part of the problem is that most of the jokes in the movie, Mike Myers has used elsewhere. There are so many jokes in Shrek and some of the other Shrek films that he directly ripped off from himself, from Saturday Night Live skits, from Wayne's World movies, from So I Married an Axe Murderer, especially, where he's got somebody using that same Scottish brogue. And he reuses a lot of the same jokes. And so as an adult, you're just like, well, okay, I'm glad he can expose kids to these funny lines, but it's like, it's not new. I also think a lot of the character design is kind of ugly. So I don't enjoy it. I think some of especially the first film or two, some of the animation is still kind of, finding their way on computer animation. But of course, obviously in the later films, they improved on that. And so again, it's movies that I think are enjoyable, but for me, absolutely I call overrated.
I remember when I worked at the movie theater, you know what? I didn't cough for 2 fucking straight days, and then I started shooting, and now I'm back to coughing again. Sons of bitches. I was like, I'm about to shoot today. I'm like, hey, I haven't coughed in like a couple days. We might actually be able to get through this show perfectly fine.
That's just going to be your thing now. From now on, you have to cough in every video.
God, I don't fucking want to, though. It's annoying. Yeah, Shrek was one of those that, like, kind of like how, and I'm not saying this in terms of the same length, but like Shrek was when this is how I remember when I first started ushering at the movie theater, because it was either the first or second week of Shrek. Because I remember the movie theater had Shrek and it had Knight's Tale, and I remember I was like, I don't want to watch Knight's Tale. It's Heath Ledger. It's a chick flick, which it isn't. It isn't. But I saw the ending of Knight's Tale like 50 times before I watched the whole fucking film. And Knight's Tale is probably one of my favorite films. I fucking love that movie. I mean, every time it's on, I got to put it on. Shrek was kind of in that same boat, the first one, where it was like I always had to go into the theater in the last like 5 minutes, see how many people were in there. And it was always on the I'm a Believer song at the end. And I was just like, okay, I don't really care to watch this because of the animation. And while I like Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy and Cameron Diaz and all them, it just wasn't something that I cared enough to want to, watch or be a part of. But then I watched it and I was like, it's pretty solid. I enjoy it for what it is. Now, I will say that the first 2 films are better than the last 2, and I will be talking about one of them later, in terms of likability. But yeah, I do say the Shrek franchise should have ended after 2. But the franchise as a whole, yes, is overrated. But there is one really good one in there, and I will talk about that one later. Now this is when I'm going to piss people off. So I only watched this. I want to say it was either this year or the end of last year, because Kimberly made me finally watch it, and I was just like, I don't fucking really want to watch this. And then it was one of those things where I was like, what do you want to watch? She's like, and I gave her the remote, and she just is like, I'm gonna put this on. And then it started. I was like, what'd you click on? She goes, wait, we'll see how long it takes for you to figure it out. I'm like,
oh.
And then as soon as I figured it out, I'm like, yay. That's Princess and the Frog. I live in Louisiana, but not when this movie came out. I didn't. I lived in Nebraska. I'm sorry. This movie didn't appeal to me. It didn't make me go, ooh, I want to watch that. There was not a single thing in the fucking trailer that made me want to check this movie out, and I never did. And so I've gone through many times where my girlfriend is making a inside joke about Princess and the Frog. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And she'll go, Princess and the Frog. I'm like, You can say that, but that doesn't fucking mean that I saw it or I know what the hell you're talking about. And I finally watched it. Like I said, it was either earlier this year or it was like late last year. We sat down and watched it, and granted, it was late, but I dozed off during it, and she caught me, and then I had to like force myself to stay awake the rest of the way so I didn't piss her off. But yeah, it's okay. Mulan's better. If I want to say that, since I said that was overrated last week. It's fine. It's fine. I can see why, if you're from Louisiana and you live down here and you're into the culture and all that stuff, why this movie is more important to you. You know, it's no different than me feeling that The Wrestler is one of the more important films of my life. But a lot of people are like, it's talking about pro wrestling. What do I give a shit? Well, it's because you don't fucking live there. You never been a part of that. It's not part of your life. It's not a part of your culture. I get it. It's not a part of mine. And so it's not really something that I cared to watch, nor did I really enjoy it as it was on the screen that I had to sit there and watch and make sure I stayed awake for so I wouldn't get in trouble. So, yeah, I hear a lot of people praise Princess of the Frog, and I just don't get it. So, yeah.
I'll talk about that one later.
Okay. Well, that's it. So yeah, we both got at least one. No, you got two on me. I've got one on you now.
Okay,
all right,
so I've lost all the Disney fans with Emperor's New Groove. I lost the DreamWorks fans with Shrek. Let's lose another group, and that's the Studio Ghibli fans. This
you
is
are
going.
always gonna poke at them. Stop poking at them.
I'm going to poke at them because I'm being honest. I'm honest. See, if nothing else, I'm honest with myself, and I don't care what other people think. Maybe that turns people off. Maybe that's why more people don't want to, talk to me. Whatever. Fine, be that way. But I'm just being honest. This is representative for me of the entire Studio Ghibli thing, but I'm sure you'll hear it again in the 2010s and the 2020s. I'll probably bring up another one there. I went with Spirited Away as my example, just because it's the most highly praised of them, at least from this decade. But really, it's all Studio Ghibli movies. Honestly, there's other kind of Japanese animation kind of stuff. There's one called Tokyo Godfathers, which is like held in huge esteem and highly rated, but it's not as popular. Not as many people have heard of it, so I won't really include that. So it was Spirited Away, which I've tried to watch some Studio Ghibli movies. At one point, I'm like, you know what? Everybody loves these. My sister loves these movies. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should give them a shot. I'll check it out. And there have been a few like anime films. There's like, well, I won't say. There's some in later decades, which actually we'll even include on my lists and the positive lists. But all these ones people praise, like Princess Mononoke in the 90s, Spirited Away in the 2000s. I tried watching these, and I don't get it. I think that they're largely boring. I think the animation doesn't look good. I think it's badly animated. I think now, granted, I'm watching the English dubs of them, where they put a bunch of celebrities in the roles, which, a lot of people, the purists will say, no, you have to watch the subtitle, which I get, because I've watched some foreign films, which are definitely better in their, in a subtitle format. But at least I watched the dubbed. But if the voice was the only thing I didn't like about it, that'd be one thing. But it's not. It's everything about it, which I just don't like. And I know they have their fans, and I'm glad they has their fans. I'm glad they love it, and I'm glad they keep putting out movies for those people who love them. But again, like I said last show, and I'll say in the next show, these just aren't for me.
And like I said last show, I have never watched a single one of the Studio Ghiblis, so I can't really give anything on this because I've never seen it. And
also, before you yell at me, I don't know if it's Ghibli. I've heard both. Whatever.
I always thought it was Studio. I thought it was Studio Ghibli. That's how I thought I always heard it.
I hear both, so I don't know. Oh. All right, so what's your last one? Right.
My last one, which I thought is where you were going to go, but then you went Studio Ghibli, is another franchise. I remember being, I don't want to say excited because it was animated and I was at the age where I was like, I shouldn't be getting excited about these. Whereas like, okay, this has got a really good voice cast. And I remember watching it and just being like, yeah, this isn't fun. I'm not having fun with this movie. I don't enjoy this movie. And then it ended up spawning sequels and TV shows and all this crap. And I'm just like, I couldn't even get through the first one without, disliking it. Why would you think I would watch multiples of this? And that's Madagascar.
Oh.
Good God. I do not see what you guys see with these movies. I remember, like I said, I was like, oh, awesome, cool. Ben Stiller, Chris Rock, fucking Jada Pinkett Smith, David Schwimmer. Those are all people I like, you know. But oh my god, this movie is boring and dull. I'm not a fan of the animation. The story is lacking. Yes, the most enjoyable part is the fucking penguins, but just like a certain other franchise that I'm talking about in the next decade, you guys burrowed that shit into the ground to the point where I never want to fucking see one of these goddamn penguins again. But Jesus Christ, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know what's more to say. I don't get it, and I don't understand how this has spawned so many sequels and TV series and all this other shit. I know my girlfriend's kids like it because they play that whatever that one song I like to move it plays. It's I look and it's a fucking scene from fucking Madagascar. But yeah, I've never understood Madagascar. Never enjoyed it.
Yeah, Madagascar is another one of those films which, if they came out with one, I would think it's fine. But like, why did it make another one and another one? And of course, the reason they made more is because of money. Obviously, they were being successful, but I don't know why they were so successful. I mean,
you know what one I liked better than this? Its sister movie, The Wild.
The Wild was actually a decent, underrated movie. Yes,
that one is good. Unlike but no one remembers that one because it came out right around fucking Madagascar time. And it was the same fucking concept of story. It had Kiefer Sutherland in it, and it was way fucking better. Not that it deserves like 8 sequels, but The Wild was better.
Oh yeah, that one as well should have just been one movie, and it was just one movie. I'm not going to put it on my underrated list because I don't love it, but I enjoyed that one probably more than Madagascar.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree. I think that Madagascar is just okay. I think that the funniest parts about it tend to be from the supporting characters like the penguins or King Julian and some of them. The main 4 characters, I'm kind of whatever. So I agree.
I will add this before we jump into surprises. If we did have a most disappointing of the decade, there's one movie that just sticks out to me as like, I remember being actually excited for this animated film and then watching it and being so thoroughly disappointed, and that was Monsters vs. Aliens. That is on the same wavelength as like Cowboys vs. Aliens when that was coming out. I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then you watch, I'm like, this sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, this does suck. And Monsters vs. Aliens was that too. It has such a great cast. Dull as shit. So if there was a most disappointed, that would have been my fucking number one.
If I was going to throw out one most disappointing, it'd be the movie 9, because 9 looked so fucking cool. You know, it's clearly not a kid's movie. It was dark. It had a different style to it. It was made by Timur Bekmambetov or whatever, the guy who directed Wanted and some other things. And I'm like, this is going to be awesome. It had the voice, I think, of Elijah Wood and some other people. But then I watched the movie and I'm kind of like, it's kind of boring. So
there's a little bonus for you guys.
Yeah, a little bonus. There you go.
But yeah, now we'll go to surprises. How many do you have for surprises?
I just have 5.
Okay, I got 5 too. Go ahead then.
All right. Again, my surprises, a couple of surprises. They're more my underrated, more than surprises. Which brings me to the first one, which is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Star Wars.
Wait. Are we talking about the actual Clone Wars movie, or are we talking about like the 3-part miniseries Clone Wars movie?
Well, the movie came out. The movie was the first 3 episodes of the show they put together to put in theaters.
I know, but are you talking about that one, or are you talking about like the one with the wacky animation?
Oh, the Jenny Tartakovsky. No. I'm talking about the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm not counting shorts and things like that, and those were like little really short movies. I'm talking about the Star Wars: The Clone Wars film that came out in 2008
with little Ahsoka and little Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah. So in 2008, Star Wars was done. They had done the sequel trilogy. They'd done episodes 7, 8, and 9. I'm sorry, 1, 2, and 3. As far as we knew, Star Wars was done. Disney had not bought them yet. They had not announced the prequels or the sequel trilogy was coming out. So we're like, okay, the only thing we get from Star Wars now is like expanded universe and books and video games and things. And they decided they coming out with this cartoon, and then they said, okay, we're gonna take the first 3 episodes of this animated show. We're going to put them together into one film. Maybe they add a couple little things, connecting pieces to connect the episodes, and then we're going to put it in theaters. And so you can see Star Wars in theaters again. And I was like, this is a dumb idea. And the animation kind of looked bad. But then I went and saw it, and I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I mean, The music was obviously, and just seeing the theater is great. You get seeing and hear the music, which it uses some John Williams themes, but there's also some music done by Kyle. Oh, I wish I could remember his last name. I don't remember offhand. They had a different person who did did the rest of the scoring for it. Sounds perfect. It's great for the series. The animation, I still don't like the style, the look of some of it, but it was actually pretty good. The story was fun. The characters were fun. They got some of the same voices back that continued on in the series. Some of the voices just did, like Samuel L. Jackson just did it for the movie. Are there things about this that are not good? Yes, like Jabba's little baby nephew or whatever the fuck it is. That kind of stuff. There's some silly stuff, especially the stuff they went too childish on. I will admit it's not a perfect movie, but I put it in here in my underrated section because people shit on this movie, but then they love the series. And it's like, it's the exact same thing. It's literally 3 episodes from the show that they put together to put in theaters to kind of kick it off. And so I'm just baffled by the people that will bash this movie and then love the show, and which is why I call it underrated.
The movie's not that good.
It's not great.
The show is
It's not great.
fantastic. The show
but it's
is
not worth
fantastic.
the shitting it gets. Yeah.
No, the problem is, and I'm one of those. I don't necessarily shit on it, but I don't love it. But I will praise the fuck out of Clone Wars the show, because Clone Wars the show is one of the best things Star Wars ever did.
It's the same thing.
It's not the same thing. It was the same thing for the first half to 3/4 of the first season, which is the same problem they had with Star Wars Rebels, is that they're like, let's make an animated film for kids for Star Wars. Problem is that they realized about halfway through the first season, and they did the same thing with Rebels, is that kids aren't necessarily watching this. The Star Wars fans who are our age are watching this, and they don't care about the kiddie aspect. So let's start making this a little more grounded, a little more adult. We're still going to have some kid elements in it, so that way we don't completely shun the kids away. But let's start making this for the actual Star Wars fans. And that was the problem with the movie, and that was the problem with the first 2/3, I would say, of season 1 of Clone Wars. You didn't realize that all of a sudden that it turned a point until you saw like a Jedi decapitate someone. You're like, oh, what the? Did that just happen? Did Star Wars finally go dark for Clone Wars? And then the rest of the way, you saw the occasional, like, let's do a 5-episode arc about the droids. And you're like, oh my God, fucking shoot me. But then there's like just so many adult, amazing stories through Clone Wars. And the Clone Wars movie is just them putting a big, spotlight on the parts of Clone Wars that we did not care for, which was, we all love Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka Tano's become probably one of the most popular Star Wars characters over the last, decade because of Clone Wars. But this is when she was whiny and annoying and just kind of like, let's put a kid with Anakin and watch, this is how he's really going to turn dark sides, because he's going to fucking murder her. But then, once again, about 2/3 of the way through, they're like, let's mature her a little bit, and she wasn't as annoying. So you, who did not watch all of Clone Wars, or even 50% of Clone Wars.
Yeah, I bailed out about halfway through the series.
Yeah, you didn't see the transitional change of that show. And that's why people shit on the movie compared to the whole series. It doesn't deserve all the hate it got. It doesn't. And I even gone back and rewatched it. I'm like, it's not as bad as I remember. But at the time, yes, it was pretty rough. But it deserves more praise. And I think after Clone Wars ended, and even after Rebels ended, since they're all basically kind of together, I think people who went back and rewatched it, kind of like the prequels, now that you kind of like got away from it and you went back to it, it's not as hated as it once was. So I wouldn't necessarily say underrated. I would say maybe turned on too harshly, and probably didn't need to be. But it's Star Wars, and everyone's gonna fucking bash it, even if it's good. So, case in point. My first one is is one that talked about last episode. And I don't know if I'm gonna really go much further into it, because I kind of really went into good detail with it on the last episode, and that's an extremely goofy movie. Love the first one. Like I said, Powerline all the way. And I said while talking about Goofy movie that I actually enjoyed an extremely goofy movie. I know it is nowhere near as good as the first Goofy movie, but I still had fun with it, with the X Games aspect, and Goofy having a love life, and like I said, I enjoy Max and Bobby, and I'm blanking on Pete's kid because he's just the whiny one the whole way through. But yeah, I still enjoyed the sequel, even though it's nowhere near as strong as the first film. So yeah.
I never saw this one, and I didn't work at the video store anymore in the 2000s, so I wasn't forced to watch it in the store. So, like I was the first film, so I can't speak on this one. My next one is one of the many direct-to-video sequels that Disney churned out in the 2000s. In the 2000s, Disney decided they were going to cash in on everything from their current, new properties, such as they came out with sequels to like Atlantis, Emperor's New Groove, all those kind of things. But then they also went back and came out with sequels to everything from Cinderella to Little Mermaid to Tarzan to Hunchback. And the one I put on this list is Mulan 2, which I talked briefly about in the last episode. Mulan 2 is definitely inferior to the first film, both in the animation of it and the story and the songs. However, it is probably the best of these straight-to-video sequels that they churned out. The songs are still enjoyable. The story's actually pretty fun. They got back pretty much all the same voices. I don't know if all of them came back, but all of the main characters, I believe they came back to do the voices again. And it's pretty good, and it's underrated. And I think it gets lumped in with all of those really kind of crappy sequels that most people just kind of write off. And I understand if people write this one off, but if you're going to check one of them out, I think this is the best of that bunch, and I think it deserves to be seen, especially if you enjoyed the first film. I think you'll enjoy this one, but you haven't seen the first film, so there you go.
I saw the first one.
Oh, yes, you saw it, but you saw it after you saw the live action one. That's
yeah.
Right.
So Eddie Murphy came back for it too?
I think so. Let me double check that information, but yeah. I could be wrong.
Yeah, we had a whole, if you guys hadn't watched last week's episode, we had a whole like sub chat about the direct sequels with like Lion King and Aladdin, and Mulan 2 was
no, he did not.
I was gonna say Eddie Murphy don't come back for straight to VHS or DVD.
No, like Ming Na Wen came back, BD Wong came back, Harvey Fierstein came back, yeah, but yeah, not Murphy.
But yeah, much like how he was with Extreme Goofy Movie, I really can't add anything to this because I never saw Mulan 2.
Barely saw Eddie Murphy didn't come back because he was busy doing the exact same voice for Shrek.
You're not wrong. But he was getting paid a shitload more money, though.
Yeah.
So who made the right call? Eddie Murphy did. My next film, I don't want to say... I think people who have watched it appreciate how good it is. I think it's more or less getting people to watch it is the one thing, and that's TMNT. TMNT, the animated film. Which, granted, is the only one of them that's called TMNT. So if I say that, most true fans will know what the fuck I'm talking about. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's been so many different adaptations of it and redos and everything like that, from the original animated series in the 80s to the live-action Jim Henson ones, which Brian loves to shit on and I love to praise, at least the first two films anyway. And then the many different animated film or shows that came out, which I'm still more partial to that 2013 Nickelodeon version, which I thought was probably the best show they ever did. And then even the most current adaptation now is pretty good. But they had never really done a theatrical until Mutant Mayhem a couple years back. They had never done they never done an animated movie in theaters until TMNT. And I would say probably around that time, Turtles was, I don't want to say it was on the downswing, but I think people were kind of getting a little, all right, I'm kind of over the Turtles.
I think they weren't negative on it. It just wasn't nearly as popular as it had been.
Yeah, and even I was just kind of like, okay. But then I was like, Sarah Michelle Gellar and Chris Evans is going to be voices. I'm like, wait, what?
Patrick Stewart was in there, I think.
Patrick Stewart. It's like, what the hell? They're in this? Okay, they wouldn't have done this if it wasn't going to be good. So I was immediately, intrigued to check it out. The story, the villain story is not much. And this is all, in all honesty, it's Teenage Mutant Turtles Part 4. It literally is in the same world as the live action film. So it is an actual sequel to the first three live action films, because they do drop nuggets and shit here and there that connect the tissues to the live action films. But yeah, the villain story isn't really much of a story of Patrick Stewart and like his, he's got this whole like I'm immortal kind of storyline. But the story around the Turtles is really where it kicks into gear. Obviously, not much change. We still have Raph and Leo still kind of at odds. Leo left to kind of go become a better leader of himself. He's been gone for like 4 something years. Raphael basically became Batman, and which totally fits Raphael. And then Mikey and Donnie are basically like, hey, we gotta pay the bills. So Donnie's doing tech support and Mikey's fucking doing party animal shit. Animation style on the Turtles look great, and hands down still one of my favorite, if not my favorite scene in any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film, show, everything is the fight between Raphael and Leonardo on the rooftop in the rain. That scene is fucking gorgeous. It's amazing. And for anyone who's been a fan of the Turtles for as long as I have, that was a scene that had been coming for decades, and it needed to happen. It's like when you keep watching two people argue, it's like, just let them fucking lock them in a room and let them fight. Like, it just needs to happen. Let them just beat the shit out of each other. And that was that scene. And so when it finally was happening, it was just like, oh, no one's here to stop them this time. Let's fucking go. And you watched it. You got to see it happen. It was such a great fucking scene. And the funny thing is now is that you talk to a lot of people who claim to be Turtles fans. They all talk about the live action stuff, and they fail to talk about the animated one. And the animated one is one of the better ones, if not, right up there in the top 2 or 3 of the best ones. And so that's why I put it in here, because a lot of people want to acknowledge it, but they don't want to appreciate it for what it really was, which was a great version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I almost put this on my underrated list, but I didn't because I had plenty of other stuff to put on there, and it is on a list we'll talk about later for me. So I have no problem putting things on more than one list, but when I had enough stuff to talk about, and I kind of suspected Sean might talk about it here, so I'll talk about it later.
All right. So what's your next one?
My next one is DreamWorks one, which I think is underrated as opposed to Shrek, and that is Over the Hedge. I think Over the Hedge is maybe, you too?
It's my number 2.
I think Over the Hedge
it wasn't going to be the next one I was going to talk about, but it was going to be the next one after that.
Yeah, it's one of the most underrated flicks easily. Because I think it has a fun story, it has fun characters, it has a huge ensemble cast, and everybody I think is perfectly cast from top to bottom. Everything from Avril Lavigne to the emo little possum or whatever she is, all the way to Steve Carell as the hyperactive Hammy the squirrel, and everything in between. And then the human cast, of course, everything about it is perfectly cast. I think the animation is great. I think that by this point, DreamWorks has kind of found their stride. And everything looked great. Everything sounded great. They didn't try to make this one a musical by adding songs to it. I mean, there's songs that play in the background, a couple scenes, but it's not characters performing songs. And it was just a ton of fun. And it was one and this is one I think that could be equally enjoyed by adults and by kids, because obviously, I was dragged to by kids, but I still love the hell out of it. And it's one that doesn't get talked about at all. And people talk about their favorite DreamWorks movies.
Oh yeah, I enjoy the hell out of Over the Hedge. I think I went back and rewatched this within the last year or 2. I think I showed it to Kimberly's kids because they had never seen it. I was like, you guys never seen Over the Hedge? I'll definitely check this out. I have a lot of fun with this movie. Steve Carell is great as Hammy. Bruce Willis is great. Nick Nolte, William Shatner, everyone is awesome in this. And I feel like a lot of people, once again, like you said, it's a relative unlooked at film, and it's got such a big cast to not go completely unnoticed. And it's a lot of fun. The premise is simple while still having those character moments and everything. And it's got fun scenes. I enjoy the hell out of Over the Hedge. And of course, when Hammy gets all coked out on, was it whipped cream? I think it's whipped cream. That's some of the most fun, enjoyable scenes in the movie. And it was one of those things where it was like, we all liked Steve Carell. And then I think Hammy the Ham was I was like, Steve Carell can do no wrong in my eyes, which he has since then. But at that point, I was like, dude, Steve Carell hits every fucking time for me. And I thought maybe this might be the one miss he'll have, and no, he fucking killed it as Hammy the squirrel. I fucking loved it, which is why it was also on my list. My next one, this is the definite epitome of underrated, surprising. This is definitely a Brian movie where it's a lot of people probably have never seen this. Maybe people haven't heard of it. I know you have. But I remember, and I have not watched it in 20 plus years or however long since it came out. I cannot remember if it's even that good, but I remember when it came out, I was like, this is amazing. Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
Oh, okay.
I thought the animation style at the time was fucking awesome. I think it was Ming Na and Alec Baldwin. I am not a Final Fantasy fan. I don't like the games. Oh, Final Fantasy X was fine, but I don't play. I'm not a big RPG guy, so I'm not someone who really was like attracted to it because it was Final Fantasy. Because this is like the Resident Evil movies, where it's like, yeah, it's called Resident Evil, but it has nothing to fucking do with the games. Final Fantasy Spirits Within has nothing to do with fucking Final Fantasy. At least from what I thought Final Fantasy was. Like, this is not a fucking video game. But I thought this movie, a lot of people call it boring and dull, and I just did not see that when I watched it. I saw a really cool story with cool visuals, good voice acting, and it was like they called them ghosts, but they were aliens, and they like would like pull their like souls out and stuff like that. I just was enthralled by this movie when it came out. I think I watched it like 5 times in the first 6 months that it came out, and I never watched it again after that. But I just remember being really, really into this movie. And I was so bummed that people just did not like it, because I was just like all about it when it came out. Do you remember this one at all? Or
I do. I remember seeing it. I saw it in theaters when it came out, and I was just looking at the voice cast. It's got Perry Gilpin, Alec Baldwin, Ving Rhames, Ming Na, Steve Buscemi, Donald Sutherland, James Woods, Keith David. Goes on. It's a great voice cast to it. Now at the time, I remember being really excited about this because it was kind of, this is 2001. This is very early. It's probably one of the first computer animated films that wasn't like a kiddie film. You know, they'd come out with Toy Story by that point. They come out with Shrek the same year as this, but this was like not necessarily, you know, cartoony kind of film. It's just computer animation. It essentially felt like a feature-length video game cutscene. The problem being, I don't like video game cutscenes. Nothing I hate worse in video games than unskippable cutscenes. Because I just want to play the game. I don't want to fucking watch the game. But anyway,
don't get Brian started on The Last of Us and fucking Uncharted. I'm like, these are the best games we're gonna. Yeah, it'd be great if I could just skip. That's where the story is. I don't fucking care. Oh my god, Brian.
Well, if I want to watch a story, I'll watch a story. I want to play a game. I don't want to watch scenes and then just walk for 90% of the time. But anyway, that's a whole side thing. This movie, I will admit, I don't remember very well. I probably have not seen it since 2001. I remember being a little bit bored by the story. The animation for the time was really cool to see on the big screen. Of course, you look back on it now, it's going to look very, very 2001 computer animation. But you know, yeah, I will say this probably does not get the attention it deserves, just in terms of being kind of groundbreaking or kind of one of the first to get out there and try to do this kind of thing that's not necessarily cartoony for kids. But I don't remember enough about it to talk intelligently on it.
I feel like it's one of those that I'm afraid to go back and rewatch, because I'm afraid if I go back and rewatch it, I'm not going to enjoy it as much. But I mean,
just let it live. Let's let it live in your memory the way it is.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's no different than, and it popped in my head recently because I think it was near the end of last year. I think it was around holiday season. We were just, Kimberly and I were trying to find stuff to watch, and she was like, that's when she like maybe watched like all of Black Mirror, because that was the first time I watched that, and then she maybe watch oh guys, is it Love, Sex and Robots, or Love, Death and Robots,
Love,
or
Death
some
and
shit
Robots.
like that?
Yeah,
Love, Death and Robots, and then like Amazon Prime had Secret Level, and we
which
watched
is made by
through
the same
all
people.
those. Yeah, and the whole time watching them, I just kept thinking of Final Fantasy Spirits Within. Like, this is a lot like Final Fantasy. I was like, I should watch that. I'm like, no, don't. It might not be as good as you remember. Just keep that positivity in your head. But yeah, it was in my brain for a little while earlier last year, or at near the end of last year, because we were watching all those.
What's funny is I'm looking now at just a bunch of stills from this movie, and it's like the animation that it looks beautiful. Now, I think in motion it looked a little more janky back in 2001, and I think especially it still probably had that dead eyes look that computer animation had until. But just looking at still photos of it, it's better than some stuff I see currently. Mm-hmm. So yeah. My number 2, I guess technically, is, Sean mentioned earlier, Princess and the Frog. I feel this one is underrated because it is just completely overlooked. It is the last, like I said, 2D animated feature that Disney put out as far as their feature length, ones before they moved on with Tangled and everything after that being the 3D kind of computer generated stuff. I enjoy kind of that Louisiana, New Orleans aesthetic, with the music. I thought it was very well done. John Goodman, perfectly cast. Well, the whole cast top to bottom is very good. I think the animation is good. And I think part of my reason I will say I probably love it is because I miss that kind of animation. So I kind of look back on this as being the end of that era of 2D Disney animation. I'm like, man, why can't they showed they could still do it great? So why didn't they keep doing it? Why do they have to switch entirely to computers? So that may be part of it. But I enjoy this movie quite a bit, and I just think it's kind of overlooked. It's kind of forgotten when it's actually pretty enjoyable, and especially the songs are one of the strongest part of this movie. So he considers it a little overrated. I consider it underrated. So maybe somewhere in the middle is where it actually lives.
I've just got one left because you took over the hedge from me. My last underrated surprise is another one of those that much like The Wild, where it was like, yeah, that was the superior one, but it came out around the same time as another movie that was very similar to it. Now, I'm not saying that this is similar to its sister movie, but in terms of the animals, it was. There was a movie that came out, and this is not my movie. There's a movie that came out around the same time that everyone was head over heels for because it was dancing penguins, and that was Happy Feet, which I thought was just hated those. Yeah, it was just like, okay, whatever. But there was another penguin movie that came out right around the same time that I thought was loads of fun, and that was Surf's Up. I really enjoyed this. I am one of those. I know he's kind of a garbage person in real life, but I enjoyed Shia LaBeouf, at least before he went crazy. But he's like Mel Gibson. If he comes out now and he starts doing some good shit, I'll be all like, yeah, Shia LaBeouf. Not in terms of you as a real life person, but in terms of your performances, hell yeah. But Shia LaBeouf is the lead in this, and he's just basically a penguin who wants to be like his idol, and he wants to surf. And so he basically goes to get trained, and there's not really a whole lot to the movie after that. He's just a penguin who wants to train to surf. And, he's got a surfing competition coming up. And, of course, there's, like, the bad guy surfer who's, like, his competition and stuff like that. I don't know why. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'm having a hard time, like, remembering other aspects of it. But I just remember really, really enjoying this and wondering why no one else really cared. It's because it wasn't fucking Happy Feet. But I think Surf's Up is far superior and enjoyed it quite a bit. Did you watch Surf's Up at all? I know you smiled when I said it.
I did see it. This is another one where I remember almost nothing about it because I saw it like when it came out and probably not since then. I do remember thinking that I will absolutely happily take this over Happy Feet any day because I thought Happy Feet was just awful. I never saw Happy Feet 2. But this is one I remember being. I mean, I didn't love it, but maybe I was just comparing it to Happy Feet because I at least found it quite enjoyable. It does have a great cast to it. Jeff Bridges is kind of playing. Jeff Bridges kind of doing the Lebowski thing, honestly, as a penguin. Yeah, pretty much. Shia LaBeouf, like you, I've liked a lot of the stuff the guy's done, and he started doing some weird shit about the same time he went crazy. He's a weird one though because every couple of years he comes back and seems to be,
he seems to be better.
Yeah, he seems like he's doing better, and he will freely admits I got really fucking weird back then, and I don't know what's going on with me. If you ever watch, there's this one John Bernthal has this show he does these long form interviews, and he does one with Shia LaBeouf, and they talk for an hour or two, and he sounds really contrite about some of the things in his past and kind of explains everything that's going on in his life and how he's trying to get things together and how help his girlfriend and stuff has helped him through rehab and all this stuff. And so every once in a while he does that, and you think okay, he's gonna get back, but then he seems to kind of go crazy again. But so yeah, I never know where to put him. But back in this era, I liked this movie. I don't remember enough about it to say much about it though. Yeah. My last one's going to be kind of out of left field for a lot of people. This is a movie that is, again, this one's clearly aimed at a young audience. So I watched this movie probably only because I had children. I think I had one child at the time. But I really enjoy this movie. And that's Curious George. Of all things, Curious George is a movie that gets so overlooked. I think because it is geared more towards kids. Because it did, after this movie, they made a series on it on, I think it's PBS, that ran for 15 seasons. So people think of it as a TV property. But it all started off, obviously with the books, but as far as this version of it started off with this film. And it's actually just a lovely, cute, endearing film. You got George being George, voiced by the genius that is Frank Welker, who does every animal who's worth anything in the past 30 years. You got Will Ferrell as the man in the yellow hat. I think he's perfectly cast. It's got these songs by Jack Johnson, which fit perfectly with the vibe of the film. The animation I thought was pretty good. It's just a movie that it's a feel good film, and it's not anything deep, and it doesn't have any huge conflicts. It's not this gigantic adventure. It's just kind of it's cute and it's small and it's lovable and it's adorable. And I know people wouldn't think that I would like something like that, but I really did. I enjoy this movie, and I think it's one that a lot of people either haven't seen or just look at as, oh, that's for little kids, which clearly it is, but it's still enjoyable for adults too.
I can't remember if I watched this or not. Now, I loved Curious George books as a kid. I read them all the time. I enjoyed them quite a bit. I think that I think this might have been around the time where I was kind of at odds with, not at odds like personally, because obviously I don't fucking know him, but I was kind of like at odds with Will Ferrell. It was kind of like around like his Bewitched area where I was just like, okay, I'm kind of getting sick of Will Ferrell. And then he went and did this. I'm like, oh man, dude, you just need to go away for a little while. And then of course, he won me back over with like the other guys because I was like, oh, okay, he could be funny. And I think this might have been around that time. So I legitimately can't remember if I watched this because like the whole time you're talking, I'm like, is he talking about the Will Ferrell one or is there another one that I don't know about? And then you said Will Ferrell, I'm like, oh no, he is fucking talking about that one.
Yeah, and he didn't do the voice when they moved to TV. He did the voice of Notice, so we might have been thinking about the TV show as well. But this was him. Yeah.
But I mean, if I did see it, I don't remember a single fucking thing about it, so that doesn't really help either. But yeah, I definitely do not remember this movie if I did watch it or not. Yeah. All right, so now we're going into our top films of the 2000s. I've got my 5. Do you have more than 5? You have 5? Okay. I'll go ahead and get this one out of the way. My 5th one is the one that he talked about earlier for Overrated, and that's The Emperor's New Groove. I was that age range, and I think this movie's hilarious. I love it. But I am also one of my guilty pleasure actors is David Spade. I love David Spade. David Spade just, I don't know if it's just like his smart aleck asshole like talk, attitude. I just always enjoy David Spade. It doesn't matter what he's in. He's always my favorite in a lot of things I watched. And I have always, I will say this will tell you how much I love David Spade. I actually like Dickie Roberts, former child star. And that's not a good movie, but I like it because it's David Spade. And then of course you add Patrick Warburton, who I love. Everyone loves Patrick. And if you don't know who Patrick is, you hear his voice and you go, oh, that's who that is? Okay, yeah, I like him. And then of course John Goodman. Eartha Kitt is funny in this as well. Like, I enjoy the 4 leads. I think it's got fun in it. And it was one of those movies too where I just wasn't expecting anything because I was also like, ugh, Disney, because like Brother Bear and we really shit on Brother Bear. We both just called out Brother Bear as like garbage. But
Brother Bear's not awful. It's just completely forgettable.
Exactly. It's like
the only thing it's notable for is the reunion of Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas as the Moose. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than like Good Dinosaur. Good Dinosaur is not a bad Pixar movie. It's just fucking uneventful as shit, and you don't remember it because it's boring.
Didn't even see that.
Or if you did, you don't remember it. I watched it, and I don't fucking remember it. But yeah, Emperor's New Groove is just a fun buddy film, and then you add like the buddy duo of the villains, and it's just an enjoyable, funny movie. Now, I never watched any of the spin-offs or sequels or anything like that, but I remember going into this going, I don't care about this. And then everyone else was like, dude, this is actually really funny. And then of course I was like, oh yeah, David Spade, I'll give it a shot. And I was like, of course, this is hilarious. I love this. And I always have a special place for Emperor's New Groove, much like Goofy Movie for me. And because I am a part of that group that Brian says, I don't know why these people love this movie so much. Well, I'm one of them. So that's why it's on my list.
And I freely admit it may just be a generational thing.
It could be. Much like Monty Python is for you. And I just don't get it.
Or you're just wrong.
Right back at you, buddy.
So, as much as I think two of my overrated were Pixar films, you cannot deny that Pixar put out some great films in this decade. Like I said, I think
I've got 2 in this list.
I've got 2. I have 3 on my list. 3 of my top 5.
I feel like we have. I feel like your 2 is the same as my 2. So you pick whatever one is not the 2 that you think is our 2.
Oh, that's gonna be tough. So 3 of my top 5 are Pixar films because, like I said, I think this is the prime. I think it's when they were putting down some of their best work. They have other good ones in this decade, but these are 3 I thought made my top 5. Which one don't I think Sean has in there?
You know how much I love these two, so you should just go with the third one that you.
I don't know for sure, honestly. I'll go with Wally.
Oh my god,
Okay, so
that's my
what?
number one, asshole.
I don't fucking know. You know what? I'm gonna knock out my three just because I'm gonna talk about these Pixar movies.
All right,
Wally, Incredibles, Finding Nemo. I think
Finding Nemo was the one that you could have gone with and been okay.
well, Nemo is what I was gonna go with, but I thought it might be on your list for some reason. I don't know.
Nemo
Because
would have been in my top 10, but not in my top 5.
Yeah, because Nemo I think is a great film, a great animated film. It snuck in the bottom of my top 5 because honestly, I was finding a hard time finding a fifth one to call my 5 favorites of the decade, because there weren't a lot that I loved in this decade. But Nemo I enjoy quite a bit. It is a great as far as the animation, as far as the story, it's very heartfelt. Honestly, as a parent, it kind of made me tear up because it kind of basically involved the story of this kid who's like kind of an outcast because he's got the handicap with the funky fin. And I just love the way that the parents interacted with him and treated him in that. I thought that was, as a parent, I really liked that part of the story. The characters, from the main characters to supporting characters, all tons of fun. I enjoy the hell out of this movie. So there, I'll talk about Nemo. You probably don't have much to say on that because it wasn't on your list, but
Nemo would have been like number 6 for
okay.
me. I enjoy Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo was in the top 10 Pixar. It would have been my number 6 of the year here, but I want to make sure Emperor's New Groove and my number 4 got talked about. No, Finding Nemo is a great film. Ellen can get on my nerves, but that's Ellen, and she's playing that character, so I can't really dog her for that. That's what Dory is.
I thought you were perfect for the character. I did not need a whole other movie following her.
But... No, and I'm going to be talking about Finding Dory next episode. But no, Finding Nemo is great. Even though it's not in my top 5, I quote it pretty consistently around here. But yeah, it's a fun movie. It's got a great voice cast through it. Hell, Kimberly just brought up a scene from it the other night because I can't remember where she said she was somewhere, and this guy was talking to her, giving her instructions, and she was like, and she basically pulled up the scene with the turtle, when Squirt is trying to give directions to Dory and is it Marlin?
No,
it's not Marlin, and he's like, "You're cute, but I have no idea what you're saying." And then she's like that's what it feels like when she's with her buddy. This one guy's talking to her while they're working out. She goes, "You're cute, but I have no idea what you're saying right now," kind of thing. And so she played that. I was like, "Yeah, that's Finding Nemo." Yeah, I mean, fish are friends, not food. Keep swimming. Bruce the shark. I love that they called him Bruce because that was a tip of the nod to Jaws. But yeah, no, it's a fun film. I enjoyed it quite a bit. That one has got Marla's terrifying, or Darla's terrifying, but she reminds me of Elmira from Tiny Toons.
Very much, yes.
She's very much that. But yeah, I think it was a great one film that definitely did not need a sequel. And it's gorgeous. The movie's gorgeous, which, once again, it's Pixar. Pixar equals, for the most part, gorgeous animation films. So yeah, it definitely deserves the praise. It just was outside of my top 5. My next one, Brian talked about in Overrated, and I said I was going to talk about one of them actually being really good, and that's Shrek 2. I think Shrek 2 is actually a great film. I think it took a lot of what worked with Shrek and made it better. And I think a lot of that's because it made the cast a little bit bigger by adding these other elements. And I think the fairy godmother and Prince Charming were better villains than Farquaad. And that's not anything against John Lithgow and Farquaad. I feel like they just never really went back to Farquaad enough in the first film to really make him a good villain. Whereas I felt like they did enough back and forth in this one. I also love that they changed the element of the whole body switching. Whereas in the first movie, Cameron Diaz is terrified of becoming an ogre because she's pretty in human form, and then she accepts her true self. Whereas now it's flipped between Donkey and Shrek, where they get to see their human forms and they realize, oh, I can be pretty and normal and no one will look at me negatively. And them also having to kind of figure out that no, they got to love their true selves. I love that story aspect of it. Not to mention that they actually both look good in that form, because we were always wondering what they would have looked like. But yeah, John Cleese is also great in this as the dad. I love that, like, they had that kind of like like the meet the parents aspect of the story. Also, the whole final act where I need a hero, that whole it's not a montage, but that whole like sequence at the end I thought was very good. But yeah, I think Shrek 2 was the best of it. And I think they should have ended it with Shrek 2 and not gone on to do Shrek 3 and 4 and now 5 and all the other spin-off shits. But I think Shrek 2 is actually really great.
Yeah, I think Shrek 2 is an improvement on 1. I still think it's a bit overrated just because being part of the franchise. I will say that Shrek 2 introduced the character who I enjoy the most of the series, and that is Antonio Banderas as Puss.
Yes, Puss. How did I forget about fucking Puss? Puss in Boots is literally the best character in that franchise, and I'm so glad that he got a sequel to his Puss in Boots, because the sequel is probably going to be talked about in my underrated for 2020s.
20s, I think it's 20s.
Yeah, 2020s. Pretty sure Puss in Boots' Last Wish is on that list. So, and I'm so glad he got another chance, because Puss in Boots was okay. Puss in Boots' Last Wish was so much fucking better. But yeah, Puss is great. I love Puss, and I can't believe I left him out of my conversation. But yeah.
Okay,
so go ahead and go with one of your other.
Well, I spoiled one of his higher ones. I'll talk about one of the lower ones first. It's
Incredible. 2 of my higher ones.
Okay, well, I'll talk about one of them now, and that's Incredibles. The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie ever made. Even though it's technically not Fantastic Four, but it does all the same things. Essentially, it's the family of superheroes. One can turn invisible, one can run super fast. Whatever. It's different powers necessarily, but it's the same. It's the same dynamic. Yeah.
If you change your color aspect on your TV, it can be Fantastic Four.
It essentially could be, yes. It's the same dynamic of the kind of this family of superpowers. It definitely has that same kind of 1960s aesthetic too, especially a brilliant score. I love the score of the movie, which I think is by Michael Giacchino. But that's very well done. The animation's beautiful. The characters are fun. The comedy works. Jason Lee as the villain, being this spurned kid who wanted to be his his sidekick or whatever, his partner. I think he does a great job. Everything about this movie from beginning to end made it, for the longest time, was my favorite Pixar film. It's nowadays it kind of goes back and forth with another one, which I've already spoiled, is WALL-E, because I really love WALL-E as well. But Incredibles is just it's the first time, I believe it's the first time that Pixar did humans as the main characters. You'd seen humans as like, in Toy Story when you saw, humans occasionally, and some of the other movies they had them as supporting characters. But this is like humans are the characters. It's not about toys. It's not about monsters. It's not about bugs. It's not about animals. It's actual humans as the main characters in the story. Because I think they had gotten to the point where like, okay, we feel like we can animate them well enough to make it look good, and they did, and it looked great, and the adventure is great. The music to go along with it's great. Love this movie.
Incredibles is, if Toy Story was never a thing, The Incredibles is my favorite, right there with WALL-E as my 2 favorite Pixar films of all time. I would give the nod to The Incredibles, just because the human element of WALL-E is kind of annoying. Don't really care for the human part of WALL-E, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But Incredibles itself is perfection at Pixar. It manages to tell an awesome superhero story, an awesome family story. It has action, it's got comedy, and it's got a shitload of heart, and it's got suspense. I remember watching it for the first time being like, this is really, really good. And it was one moment where it literally went from really good to top tier fucking amazing. And it's very near the end of the movie. And I'm just like, yeah, it's like everything's great. I'm really loving this, but I feel like it's missing this one thing where it's like, I think it was one of those things where like it still felt like it was too easy for him. And while it was still too easy for him by the end, it was that moment when oh god, Jason Lee's name. Syndrome.
Yeah. Sinestro's the Green Lantern.
When Syndrome takes Jack, and he's flying up into the sky, and Elastigirl tells Mr. Incredible, just throw me, like just like her like snapping at him at that moment. You know, like, I don't fucking care what happens to me. Throw my ass into the sky. I have to save Jack Jack. It was that delivery by Holly Hunter that made me go, okay, that was it. Like, that was the moment right there. That, and it's like in the very last moments of the movie, but it was like that reaction of the story that made it feel more real to me for an animated film, because you added that element of excess danger to it, where stop fucking around and just do it, because we have to save our son. And that went from like a 4-star to a 5-star in that, just that one reaction of a scene, because it took me off guard enough to go, holy crap, they really do know how to do these characters right. And then you had all the other elements in between. Like I said, I still quote the one scene with the little neighbor kid. You know how, like, you always get the saying where, like, you see memes, I guess, all the time, where it's like the boyfriend or the husband's looking at the wife, and you're looking at them all lovingly, and they're like, "The fuck are you looking at?" And they're like, you know, I was like, "I don't know, something amazing, I guess." Like, I quote that shit all the time to Kimberly, and she usually rolls her eyes at me and then flips me off and walks away. But Incredibles, and then you even add the whole Samuel L. Jackson as Frozone. You know, I need my super suit. You know, it's like that whole scene is
Where
great.
is my super suit?
I just am playing the scene in my head. I love it. But the action is great. I love how they do this like kind of like tier leveling, where we get to see him coming from becoming a not becoming a fat nobody, but basically has turned into this kind of like dad who's like out of shape and
Stuck in routine, yeah.
Yeah, and then he has to like Rocky montage himself back to like becoming himself again. Every character in this movie works. Edna is great. She's got some great lines in the movie. Like I said, Incredibles can do no wrong, which is why it broke my heart that Incredibles 2 was so far off what we wanted. And that's the thing too, is like, I bet you if I watched it now, I probably wouldn't hate The Incredibles 2 as much.
Incredibles 2 is actually a good film. It's not as good as the first one.
But it's like it's like Gladiator. Don't come at us with a sequel if it's not going to be to the level of the first one.
Especially in the case of both of those where you waited 15 years plus to do it.
Yes. Because then now you gave us the excitement level because it's been so long, and this is what you gave us. And it's like, I guarantee if I watch Incredibles 2 now and I take the like out of it, it's probably not bad. But when I remember watching it when it first in theaters, I was so incredibly disappointed that, like, I think I still gave it 4 stars. It's like, in spite of me hating this movie, it's still Pixar. It's still really good. I just don't like it. I probably would appreciate it more now. But The Incredibles is hands down one of my favorite animated films of all time. It's one of my favorite superhero films of all time. And it's definitely one of my favorite Pixar films, hands down, of all time.
My number 3 is WALL-E, but I'm going to skip it because I want to let you talk about it first because it's your number 1. So,
I mean, it was like I said, my top 3 are like 1A, 1B, 1C. So if you want to go WALL-E, we can go WALL-E.
Right. Fine, but it's your number 1, so I'll let you talk first about it. Go ahead.
I remember. I'm trying to remember when we first saw trailers for it. I wasn't sure how I was going to enjoy this movie because I wasn't prepared for the story we were going to get. And kudos to Pixar for the trailers we got, because we really didn't know. Like, because we didn't realize that the first like half of the film was a silent fucking movie, basically. So we're like, we watched the trailers, we're like, okay, it's a robot and he's cleaning up trash and he's dancing in the sky with another robot. I don't know what the fuck that means, but whatever. I feel like WALL-E is the first half of WALL-E, basically until he goes to space, is the best Pixar could ever do. And that's even over The Incredibles. The story we get with WALL-E is beautiful, visually perfection. And I love every single fucking second of that first half of the film. Second half, still enjoyable, still fun. Not as good as the first half though, and that's mainly because of the human aspect. I wasn't really all that into the all the humans are fat, blobs. You really can't do anything, and now let's make them characters. If we would have just kept the movie 1000% on Wally and even the other robots he was having help, like Bernie and stuff like that, I would have been more into this movie, and it probably would have. And I'm saying this as it's like my number 3 favorite Pixar film of all time. Oh my god, it would go up one more spot. But what I'm saying is, I don't hate the human characters, but I felt like I think Pixar was like, we can't go silent the whole fucking way, so we got to add some talking characters, and I felt like it was their way of kind of either studio-wise being forced into this, or them being afraid that people weren't going to care enough about this without having some talking elements by adding the humans. But I feel like if this movie just stuck with Wally and had this story of him on Earth cleaning and with Eva and all this stuff, it would have been one of, even though it already is in my eyes, but more so one of the best animated films ever made. Visually, just everything about this movie works for me. Like I said, the first half of it is perfection. And I'm pretty sure I told the story on the story before about me terrifying a kid with Wally when I worked at Best Buy. I'm pretty sure I've already said that before. But let's just say I was pretty good at doing the Wally voice, and I was trying to make this kid feel good. Wally had just came out on DVD or Blu-ray. We had a big Wally standee, and it was an animatronic one, so it moved. Or a cardboard moving one, and this little kid was standing in front of it going, "Hi, Wally. Hi, Wally," expecting Wally to talk back. And he stood there for like 5 fucking minutes going, "Hi, Wally," and no one said, and it didn't say anything. And I was like, I'm gonna make this kid's day. So I snuck up behind the standee, so the kid didn't see me, and he said, "Hi, Wally," again, and I started talking like Wally. I'm not gonna do it right now. And the kid blood-curdling screamed and ran away. And I cowered into the fetal position after that. And everyone was there because everyone was watching, because I mean they didn't have their phones out or anything because it wasn't like the phones we have today, but they were all like standing out like, oh, this is gonna be a really cool moment. And then it turned into this horrifying scene where I probably traumatized this kid.
And that was the day Sean got fired.
Yeah, no. I think I went about a good month being ridiculed at work for terrifying kids as Wally. And so that's a special little side story for me how I feel about Wally. But yeah, I love Wally immensely.
No, I mean, you kind of covered everything already, but yeah, this is just, if in terms of just pure beauty, this movie, the animation is beautiful. The music in it is beautiful. The scenes that, like you said, the first half of this movie, especially the first 20 minutes, but most of the first half, like the first 10, 20 minutes are completely dialogue free, not counting the clips of Hello Dolly he's playing.
Yeah.
But as far as the characters, it's because it's Wally talking to nobody. He's got that cockroach there. A cockroach obviously doesn't talk. And it's essentially a silent film. It's essentially like watching like a Charlie Chaplin film or something. It's great. And then even once like Eve shows up and there's some dialogue between them, it's still essentially a silent film with a tiny, little bits of dialogue here and there until, like you said, the humans show up. But everything in that first half is just beautiful. Now I understand smaller kids are going to get a little, fidgety in their seats, trying to watch this thing with no dialogue and stuff. But for adults like us who are watching this, it's just a beautiful film. Once the humans show up, which I agree, they kind of have the whole thing where they're overweight, they have to move around in chairs, they always have the TVs in front of them. I understand they're going for the social commentary, but I don't need that. I think I would have enjoyed the film if it had just been the robots. But at the same time, I understand how if they made the film completely, essentially a silent film, they were going to lose some of their audience. So I understand the decision. I don't love it, but that doesn't make me love the movie any less. Love the movie. It is maybe my favorite Pixar film. It's right up there, like I said, that and Incredibles. I kind of tend to compete for my favorite one off the top of my head. Some of the Toy Stories, maybe. I don't know, but
it's pretty much like Toy Stories, Incredibles, and Wally.
Yeah, it's definitely top tier. I don't know exactly where it's ranked. It's definitely top tier. But I love it for all the same reasons that he said, except I don't terrify children.
You do, just not in the way where you thought you were trying to be heartfelt.
That's why Sean loves it. He has happy memories of making kids cry.
I can't confirm nor deny that comment. So, okay, moving on.
Secretly, he feels kind of proud about that moment. Like, yeah, I kind of like how that turned out.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to argue that.
All right, so we covered one from that both of us had. I'll move on to my next one, which you've already discussed, is TMNT. This is one of my favorite animated films of this decade, because it was unique. It doesn't look like every other film. It definitely has a darker look and tone to it. The characters are very, very different than the Turtles we had seen before, whether it be in the cartoon on TV or in the live action shitty movies they'd made at that point. This was a different take on it, but the characters were essentially still the same. I love the animation of it. Like you said, I love the voice cast they assembled for it. It was just a very, very pleasant surprise. Enough so, like I said, I wanted to put it in my surprises, but I decided instead I wanted to put it in my top because it in what I think was a relatively weak decade for animation. Obviously, there's some exceptions. But in a relatively weak decade for animation, I thought this was an excellent, excellent film. And you've already discussed this one. So what do you got next?
My last one. I thought you liked this one more enough to be in your top 5, but apparently not. It might be in your top 10. There was a movie, and again, this would be my number 3 in rankings because WALL-E and Incredibles is 1 and 2. There's another movie that I have talked many times on this channel about that I love immensely. Pretty sure Brian enjoys it too, which is why I was shocked it wasn't on the list. And that's Kung Fu Panda.
I still have one left. That's it.
Oh, I thought you were done.
No.
Okay, so is that your number 1?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we did have 3 of our top 3. We have 3 of our top 3 or our top 3. Yeah, Kung Fu Panda. Jack Black was born to play this role, which is weird because it's animated. But
he's another one of those people who, at the time, I was getting kind of sick of Jack. I love Jack Black, but he was like coming out with so much in such a short period of time that I'm like, okay, I need a break from Jack Black. And so I saw him voicing this. I'm like, ugh, but it turned out to be perfect casting. Yeah,
Jack Black was born to play this role. I cannot envision anyone else playing Poe than Jack Black. It's got one of my favorite villain introductions in all time, not just animated. I still think Tai Lung's escape from prison is one of the best hidden gems of surround sound demos. I sold so many surround sound demos playing the jailbreak scene. That is one of the most beautifully awesome choreographed animated fights, like action sequences, that I feel like so many people don't appreciate and pay attention to. Just the level of sound detail in that scene, as well as just awesomeness visually and choreograph, which I say choreograph, but we know it's animation, but just coming up with and he's going to move like this.
You still have to choreograph the action to animate it.
Yeah, it is hands down one of my favorite scenes in the history of movies. The rest of the cast is great. Dustin Hoffman, Angelina Jolie, Seth Rogen, David Cross, Jackie Chan. Jim Hong, his dad.
Oh, James Hong, yeah.
James Hong. Everyone is so amazing in this film. It's got so much heart. It's funny. The action, like I said, is great. And I grew to love this character. And if I didn't love this movie as much, it would be my number 1 surprise, because I don't think any of us, like you said, we were tired of Jack Black. No one expected us to love Kung Fu Panda. And this ended up becoming one of my favorites. I love this one. I love the second one. Third one's okay, and the fourth one's okay. But I love this movie, and like I said, I can never see Jack Black not play Poe. And they can make 10 more Kung Fu Pandas. And while I might we probably don't need 10 more, I will always return to Kung Fu Panda as long as Jack Black is voicing Poe. Like I said, one of my favorite animated films of all time.
Yeah, I have loved the whole franchise. I honestly have not seen 4 yet. I don't know.
It's part of that fine. It's fine. I know you're reserved on it because the Furious 5 are not in it. And that's what's holding you back. But I think for what it is, it's solid. But yeah, it's not because they're not in it. It's just the story itself is good, not great.
Yeah, I fully intend to watch, just haven't yet. 3 I thought was good with weakest of the 3. 1 and 2 I love, but especially this first one obviously holds a special point in my heart just because it is the first one that kind of launched the franchise. Like I said, perfect casting top to bottom. It'd be Jack Black, Angelina Jolie, Dustin Hoffman, the whole group. Ian McShane especially as the villain. I think the characters look great. The animation is awesome. The sound, as you said, is awesome. There's nothing about this movie I don't like. I'm trying to think about anything more to add. I think you kind of honestly covered all the stuff I was going to talk about. But
the main story aspect of it all is that he's trying to be a dragon warrior, and the scroll is the end all be all, and then you find out that it was just in you the whole time. That it's such a simple story when you think about it, but it's like, but they do it in such a way where it's like, well, he's a fat panda. How can he be the greatest warrior of all time? And then because you just have to fucking believe in yourself, man.
Yeah, it's about self-belief. It's about identity. Again, this is another movie where they kind of get in some real parental dynamics in it because he has his adoptive father, James Hong. But then by the end, it's like, no, you are my dad. He's just like, it's very touching, especially if you watch this as a parent. And so, yeah, this is a movie that honestly, when you hear the title of it, you think about this movie Kung Fu Panda, it just sounds like just some throwaway shitty animation movie for kids. Then I watched it and it had so much heart and the fact that it was also so well made in terms of just the look of it and everything. Love this movie.
And of course, it gave us one of the best Jack Black quotes in Skadoosh.
One word.
Skadoosh, one word. That's all you need. But what were your guys' favorite films of the 2000s and animated? Did we name them here? Probably, because there's fucking great ones here. And or was it something we didn't name, or was it Spirited Away that Brian's probably going to get a lot of backlash for? Let us know in the comments below. Coming up next, obviously we go into the 2010s. This is going to be a rough one. This is going to be how it was for us in the 2010s for action and horror, where it felt like we were having to turn our kids away. This list is rough in the best way possible, so stay tuned for that. We are also nearing the end of summer, so our end of summer review will be coming out. We'll be talking about this past summer and movies, what we liked, what we disliked, where we were in our predictions for the box office race for our top tier summer films. So be on the lookout for that. Also, at the end of the month, we will have our mass movie review where we will go over all the movies that were coming out in August, such as Weapons, Naked Gun. I know there's more, but I'm not blanking on any right off the top of the head. So we'll have reviews for those. As well as also, we're going into September. Summer season's over. Fall season's begun. And we'll be going into our fall preview to the end of the year preview. We're talking about all the remaining films that come out in 2025, what we're excited about, what we're anticipating, and how we think the rest of the year will shape out. So we got plenty of videos coming, so be on the lookout for all those. But until next time, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Waskrug. That is Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies, go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.